What's going on, guys? Welcome to Interviews with Warfighters. I got a special guest. We got Bill Stoker with YouTube's very own STOKERMATIC. So make sure you go ahead and check out his YouTube channel after you watch this. But Bill, you and I, we just went through season 2 of the SEER challenge put on by Grunt Proof. And he was the main participant in season 1 and a big driving factor for getting me out here to participate in season 2. So we can't reveal how everything went. You guys are just gonna have to wait until the episodes get rolled out by Randall with Grunt Proof later on in the year. But here's to a successful completion of that.
Hell yeah.
And we thought we'd just capitalize on the moment and just go through and talk about STOKERMATIC's military career, which spanned from being both a United States Marine to the United States Army. But but anyways, Bill, let's how I always start this off is just asking guys like, what was your driving factor? What made you want to be a United States Marine?
Right. So I mean, growing up, so my family's been in the Corps going back at least 4 generations, and family served in every conflict, going all the way back to the Revolution since we've been here. But it was weird growing up because I always knew that my dad was in the Corps. I knew he was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I'd seen some of his slides. He talked to some of his warfighters that he was with. I knew that my grandfather was in World War II, and those were the 2 predominant ones that I kind of saw stories and pictures of. But my dad never talked about his experience in Vietnam.
And it's just common.
It is
common thing with
right.
Vietnam and Korea and World War II,
right?
Which is kind of a 180 from nowadays.
Right. Yeah. It's like, everybody.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
But there's a piece of me that always knew that I was going to be a Marine. I don't know what it was, but I just knew. So about a year after I graduated high school, I went to college for a little bit and did some worked on some ranches in New Mexico. And I said, I'm done. I'm ready to go ahead and do this. And that's kind of how the ball got started.
So would you say like the overwhelming driving factor for you was just your long heritage?
Yeah, heritage, and I knew I wanted to give back. I knew I wanted to be something, a part of something that was bigger than myself. I knew I wanted to serve my country and be a part of this community that I kind of had this vision of, and I just wanted to. I wanted to be a part of it.
Awesome. So you enlisted in the Marine Corps. What year was it, and what was the MOS that you ended up going with?
So it's April 24th, 1995 when I stepped foot on the yellow footprints of San Diego. A few months prior to that, I was still in college. I ended up dropping out and losing a few credits. Because if I'm going to be honest, I sold myself out. I wanted to be a radio operator to begin with because that's what my dad was. And I saw so many of his photos, and some of which I've shared with you. And I see him marching out by himself with a freaking radio pack on in Vietnam. Like, who the fuck does that?
Yeah, I mean, life expectancy of a radio operator in Vietnam is...
But I know that was going to be, one, it was going to keep me tied to my dad's service. And 2, I knew it would have been an easy, surefoot way, being a communicator, to get in a reconnaissance platoon. And then my recruiter changed, and this new recruiter comes on and says, "Hey, how would you like $4,000?" I said, "Sign me up! Come on!" And so I ended up starting off as in motor T, and I hated it. I had great NCOs that I worked for. I went to Okinawa. It was my first duty assignment, and I went to Camp Lejeune. And then when it was time to re-enlist, I said, I've got to make a change. And I don't know if I don't know if a lat move is the right thing to do, but I got to do something. So I went to Fast Company, and I went to Security Force Battalion.
Was this in 99?
Would have been 98, 99, yeah. Okay. And I started off as an instructor down at the shoot house in Moyoc.
So real quick, before you go any further, can you just explain to like the audience who might not know what is Fast Company? Because we use a lot of acronyms in the military.
We do.
And a lot of people probably don't know what exactly that is.
Yeah, so Fast Company is the Fleet Anti-Terrorism Security Team Company, and their history goes back a couple decades, well, probably 3 decades now. And there used to just be one Fast Company out on the West Coast, and then they started up and moved everything over to the East Coast, and then there was 2 of them. One was in Norfolk. That was First Fast. It's the only one that really matters. And then Second Fast was up in Yorktown. And the purpose behind the company, and they belonged at the time to the Marine Corps Security Force Battalion stationed out of Norfolk. The Fast platoons, you could trace their response to the embassy bombings in Kenya and Nairobi, to the response to the Cole attack. And 3rd platoon, I'm 99% sure that they were in Mogadishu when the shit hit the fan. And so there was like Fleet Marines like yourself, coming up from the 03 world, I don't think they really liked Fast Marines at the time because we were the gunslingers, we were the cool guys, we were doing CQB work.
Yeah.
And so the vast majority of our training, half of it was black side, so it was all CQB, and then the other half was all green side, so it was all patrolling and things of this nature. But they would send one platoon out to Naples, they'd send a platoon out to Rhoda, and they would send a platoon out to Japan, just to sit on standby for 6 months in case something happened, and then if something happened, then they would go and respond. So whether it was a non-combatant evacuation operation, or whether it was a response to just a terrorist activity that happened, that was kind of the primary focus behind it. It's kind of
so like if an embassy is getting overrun or something, like they'd send a fast team in there.
Because you were there super close, and at the time, especially in the 90s, the terrorist operations in Europe was off the chain. So they had the ability to have a couple of platoons that were ready to go at moment's notice and hit the ball rolling.
Cool. Yeah. So can you like elaborate on your time in Fast? Like how was that? And how many years were you there? And what did you see and do at that time?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that was fantastic. I mean, it was an amazing time. I got to do all the things that I wanted to do as a Marine. And of course, being Motor T when I got there, I spent the first 8 months in the battalion as an instructor down at the schoolhouse, and about 8 months down the road, they were looking for some NCOs to go up to the Fast Company, and I was like, well, here I am, send me. And they kind of knew that I was being thrown into the shark tank because 99% of Fast Company are all junior Marines, and they're all straight out of SOI, and they're going up to the company. The NCOs that were there, a lot of them were homegrown, and all the staff NCOs, of course, they're coming in off the fleet for a B billet, and they kind of knew, not being 03 at the time, I was kind of getting thrown into the shark tank, but. My platoon sergeant, Staff Sergeant Rowan, and my platoon leader, Captain Kelly, Staff Sergeant Black, right? He's kind of a famous Marine now.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he had 6th platoon at the time when I got there, and I spent about 3.5 years, or close to 4 years.
It's the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, currently.
The Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. And he was a freaking animal. He was an animal. A typical, just a typical staff NCO in what you expected. So we got to the platoon, and I took a squad, and I was well received by my platoon sergeant and my platoon leader, and of course the Fast platoons we had an assistant platoon leader, so that we could conduct split ops. And vast majority of the time I was there, I was gone to schools. I was going to CQB school, I was going to Hearstmaster school. I was going to evasive drivers course, going to designated marksmanship courses, and just had a blast. Always gone, always in the field, always training, always going to school. And our time came to get forward deployed, and we got sent over to Naples. What a fantastic spot to potentially spend 6 months in Naples, Italy. It was amazing.
And what year was that?
It would have been 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was right before the election when we got out there. And we got down there and we did some traveling to Greece to do some training. And we went up to England to do some training with the Royal Marines. And they had this outstanding mount town that they were using as kind of a pre-deployment for folks going to Belfast. So it was a complete mock-up. And man, these dudes, I mean, they were throwing live Molotov cocktails at us. Like, so, you can't even, we couldn't get away with this. Today, I mean, there's fire coming up over the shields. And they brought down like 6, I can't remember how many Royal Marines that it got to inhabit the town.
So is that picture that you have?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so you guys are seeing this picture right now. So.
Oh, it's amazing. And everything in the town is operational. So the bars are operational. And these Royal Marines, they're coming out, they're getting drunk, and they're a riot mob at the end to make it through. It was fantastic. And then to actually deploy a fast platoon at the time, like that came from the top, because of the chain of command at the time for our operational purposes. And the fleet admiral, was it 5th Fleet or 7th Fleet, whatever it is, stationed in Gaeta at the time. And he had apparently a significant risk of a terrorist attack at his post. And so they went ahead and sent us up. And so we spent about 3 months, it seemed, maybe less, guarding him and guarding the post, or the naval shipyard there. And it's a small, because he only has his boat there in Gaeta. But it was so surreal to be deployed in Europe with live ammunition. It's not like we're at war in Europe, in Italy. Right. I mean, it's our rules of engagement were extremely thick. But just prior to that, our platoon had deployed on their last rotation. They got sent to Macedonia, and they had some nasty times there. But it was great because in this experience, we got to move ahead of and before a terrorist attack had happened, as opposed to almost every other time a terrorist activity would happen and then a platoon would move in. So that was kind of awesome to be able to do that and keep everybody safe there. It was quite the experience.
Did you guys ever get any actual task missions to react to a situation that was going on?
Most of it was, so no, in short, no. While we were there, we conducted a lot of reconnaissance, counter-reconnaissance on activity that was happening. And we did have a couple breaches in security that we responded to, which was crazy because we were conducting split ops at the time. So the other 2 squads were on the ship, and then we were at the main garrison. And you only got 2 squads, so everybody's working 12 on, 12 off, 7 days a week. And I come off shift, and the next 12 hours it's rest and as well as act as a QRF. And we get this response, that there was some hatch left unsecured somewhere, and so we had to go clear this building. And it just happened, man. And I got all my fucking squad, and we're going out and I'm making sure they have all their kit on, they got their flags, they got their Kevlars on and everything. But I I didn't put on my own stuff, you know. And so we go clear this room, and afterwards I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost glad nothing happened.
So if I could just piggyback on it, because that's actually a pretty common thing, you know, is like a senior, junior, leader, right? So it's like you're so focused on inspecting your own guys and like making sure everybody else has their shit,
yeah,
and
right.
then, like as you're inspecting them, because you're so worried about them, you forget about yourself, right?
Yeah.
So it's like even when you're in the field, it's like, oh, you're making sure security is in place, and guard rotations are set, and all this other stuff, and you're making sure the guys are getting proper rest cycles. And then lo and behold, you realize you haven't slept at all.
Take care of yourself, right?
So because you're so worried about your junior Marines,
and
it's just a common thing with leadership is you have to do all those things, but you also have to figure out like, hey, I have to fucking sleep too. I'm a human being, and I've got gear, like so.
Yeah, so it's crazy. So we get everything cleared, and we come out and we unload and we show clear. And it was at that time I was like, holy crap, man! I don't have my fucking flak jacket on, you know. And with the reconnaissance that we conducted, the Italian forces were able to conduct some operations. But because of rules of engagement and status of forces and everything, they wouldn't let us go out in town and clear out these dudes. But a small cell was taken out, and so I was super happy about that. Activity. Nobody got hurt. That was super awesome.
Did you guys get Libo in Italy at all?
So we did get Libo in Italy, and that was absolutely amazing. In Naples, it's a typical dirty town, which I love. The dirtiness of the towns. But that was really good. We got a little liberty up in London as well, and that was a pretty wild time too.
I got to do a little exchange program with the Royal Marines.
Yeah,
and I was up there for 2 weeks, and I spent the first week in London with the Royal Marine reserve unit that was there.
Yeah,
and that was just amazing. Those guys.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. Leave it at that. It was fantastic.
They have a good time.
Royal Marines are good freaking dudes for sure. So well, what year are we at right now, and what rank are you at this point in your career?
So I'm a sergeant. By the time I got up to Fast Company, I just pinned sergeant. I went to the Security Force Battalion as a corporal, and then pinned sergeant. And it would have been. Go ahead.
I just want to say, correct me if you think differently, but in my opinion, Sergeant of Marines is the best freaking rank.
Oh, absolutely.
Hands down, across the board. I had the most fun as a Sergeant of Marines.
Absolutely. So. Having just a small set of Marines that you're responsible for is absolutely amazing. It's something different.
Yeah.
So it would have been the end of. We came back. Shortly after the election, and so late 2000, early 2001, continued to do training, and then September 11th happened. And we're sitting there, as an anti-terrorism security team company, and everything stopped, and everything's packed, everything's ready to go. We got stuff on the airfield, we're ready to go, and we're chomping at the bit, like, fuck, man, send us to New York, we're ready to go right now, come on! And we were ready, and a couple days later, we finally get to go home, because we're stuck on post. Family has no idea where I'm at, what I'm doing, when I'm coming home. And then, probably 48 hours later, it was, go ahead and go home. We're not going to send you guys. Kept training, and then sometime in late 2002, I had, it's coming up on the end of my re-enlistment, and I was looking back over the course of the past, especially the last 4.5 years of deployment, training, field time. I'm married. I have now 2 children. One was post-deployment, baby.
I've got one of those myself.
We know the exact date that boy was conceived. Yeah. The exact date. And I was like, you know, I think I want to. I think I want to spend more time with my family, and so it was late 2002, early 2003 when I got out.
So when you left the Marine Corps, like, what did you have in your mind, like what you were going to be in the civilian side?
So huge mistake on Stoker's part. I had no plan.
I empathize with that because, like, I was a machine gunner, right? And when I left active duty, it was like, well, what am I going to freaking do?
Right,
I'm an
right.
0331 machine gunner. And I'm like, I guess I can go be armed security while I go to college? Like,
Right.
what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't exactly translate. But.
Yeah, you know, I never, I don't know, so I think between the timing, and you know, things were different then. Like, now there's a huge benefit for soldiers getting out to transition.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of programs out there. You know, I'm not saying that programs didn't exist back then, but I didn't know about them.
Yeah.
I think we had a couple-day TAP class, you know, or whatever it was, but it was garbage. So I really had no idea what we were going to do. So we moved to Alabama when I was on transition leave, and I had over 90 days because I never took a leave. And during that time, I found a job working in a manufacturing company. I was like, well, you know, this is gonna take care of the family. It's gonna put some food on the table and pay some mortgage and stuff. So I got working as a plant manager for this company, and then I got invited by this other organization to come down and help them build trains, of all things. And at first they couldn't match the salary that I needed, but they came back and they went ahead and accepted me. And a couple months later, our primary customer came up from Peru and realized that these dudes were kind of embezzling their money to work on other projects. And a couple things led to another, and all of a sudden it was Stoker had his own company that was building and restoring trains. And I got 3 cars down to Peru, and I've got a car running up in Dallas, and a static car in McKinney, and I have a car in Florida. But these dudes had to put a pause, and I was supposed to send 12 cars down to Peru. And they were fighting against this monopoly, and they had to put their production on hold. And so I went about 8 or 9 months just finishing up some other odd and end work and doing some side jobs. And one day out of the blue, wife and I are driving home from a restaurant, and I can't even remember which one of us asked each other, like, what would it be like if we went back in the service? I had thought it really never crossed my mind.
What year is this?
This would have been late 2009, early 2010. So I had about a 7-year break in service. And it was crazy when I got out, though. And, you know, I'm a fucking devil dog. And I gotta get my PT in, right? So I get my silkies, I've got my green sergeant and Marine shirt on, and I'm running through small town Alabama, and this is, you know, not long after 9/11, and dudes are still, you know, very different time back then, very different time. And so I'm running down Main Street, and I stop to do some flutter kicks. And I'm on the side of the road, and I'm doing flutter kicks. And this old guy comes out off the street. He's probably, you know, 60 or whatever. He's like, "Whoa!" He's looking at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I come over and I said, "How are you?" You know, and you know, he's an older gentleman. You know, I'm respectful of my elders and have a good conversation. I just want to make sure you weren't some kind of a terrorist. I'm like, what kind of terrorist runs down Main Street and does flutter kicks in silkies? I mean, come on, with the liners cut out, of course. But you know, we went ahead and made the decision that we're going to go back in, and I had talked to a prior service recruiter. Oh, I'm good. as I was thinking about going back in the Corps, but I just knew, I just knew that in 2010, the Corps, it wasn't going to be the same experience. And I didn't want what I knew the Corps to be in my memory. I didn't want to experience it different. And because I just knew it was going to be. I knew, I just knew. And, I don't know. So I said, you know what, well, maybe I gotta stay green. There's no way I'm putting a blue uniform on. There's no freaking way. So I go, let me talk to, we'll talk to the Army. And I went and talked to the Army recruiters. And being prior service, it would have been the same going in the Corps. Like, you got no options. Your complete needs of the military at this point in time. So when I came in 2010, they said, here's what your MOS can be based off the needs of the Army. And they said, you can be a 25 Quebec, multi-channel transmission system operator maintainer. I said, what the frick is that? So here, watch this video. And so, of course, they show you the stupid videos. I'm like, what the frick is that? Like, have you seen my DD-214? Right? You see, like, I got it. I got some time as a motor T, but look at all these other freaking schools I got. And so I was sure I was going to be a grunt, just based off of what was there. But they had a critical shortage in this MOS. And like, it's this or hit the road. And this 17, 18-year-old kid comes in, gets the same MOS, gets a $30,000 bonus.
Oh.
Your prior service, come on!
Yeah.
And so I got, and I didn't mind not getting a bonus. And I actually looked at these kids, coming in, even in 2010, with a deep sense of I don't know if reverence is the right word, but I think anybody who is, my generation, when we enlisted, we were not at war, right? That was not, of course, we'll kill some commies, come on. But we weren't at war with commies. And everybody who has enlisted since 2001 knew what they were getting themselves into. They saw the footage, they hear the stories, and they still said, here I am, send me. And so I look at these dudes, man, I'm sorry, I get a little fired up, like, fucking thank you, thank you for your service, it's fucking awesome. And so I get to my MOS training. They call it AIT, Advanced Individual Training, whatever, in the Army. It's at Fort Gordon, and it was a madhouse. Like
Well, did they let you go in as a sergeant?
So they let me come in as the E4 specialist.
Okay.
And I was a sergeant promotable.
So for you guys don't know, you pretty much took one loss.
Yeah, I lost one pay grade. Which was I didn't have a problem, but I was out so long. Like, if I'd been out less than 3 years, I think I would have kept my rank. But I lost one rank. I go to Fort Gordon, Georgia, and the Army is so freaking big.
Yeah.
Like, it was unbelievable to see these huge, like, battalion-sized formations of schoolies going to school. Oh my God! Like, I was thinking, all these dudes coming in, there must be this many people getting out. But growing up, especially in the Corps, like, I don't ever remember anybody getting out. I always remember the new guys coming in, but I never remember anybody ETSing. It's so crazy. Like, where do they all go? I don't know. And I tried to, I volunteered to go to Ranger School and to get to Ranger Battalion while I was at school. And I got all my medical assessment done, and got everything squared away, and they sent it over to the schoolhouse. And the schoolhouse said, "Ha, your prior service." No. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not some 17-year-old geek off the street who's green as green can be. He has no salt on his collar at all. Like, come on. And they said no. It's like, fuck, whatever.
Just to put your mind at ease, I want for the record to state, in my 20 years in the Marine Corps, not once have I received a bonus for anything. Not re-enlistment, not my initial enlistment, nothing. They wouldn't even let me go to jump school. I was like, I want to re-enlist. I want to go to jump school. And they're like, no, you can re-enlist, but you're not going to jump school. Sorry, we want to give it to somebody else.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
And that's like the only way you get to jump school as a United States Marine, unless you're in recon.
Right, unless you're in the recon. Yeah.
Is fucking re-enlistment status.
Right. So. It's the only way. So I get my orders and we go to Hawaii. And I'm part of a expeditionary signal battalion, and it's each company has a couple of platoons, and they're all about 45 dudes with 6 teams that are designed to shoot out and support 6 different battalions, really, as well as a brigade. And I had gone into the Army, and I said, I cannot judge the Army based off of my experience from the Corps. It's 2 different branches. It's almost 15 years apart, whatever. So it would be a disservice to the people that I'm going to be serving with. Nobody likes somebody who comes in to a new unit and says, "Well, back in my last unit, this is how we did it," right? And everybody hates those dudes. I certainly couldn't say, "Well, back in the Corps, this is how we did it." Yeah. So I wanted to try to give as much of a clean slate as we could, but I just knew in 2010, which is only 6 years after some hellacious crap that the Corps and the Army had gone through in Iraq and in Afghanistan, that everybody's mindset, this is my only preconception, that everybody's mindset was going to be, we need to get to the field and we need to train hard now because we're going down range.
Right.
And that is not what I found. I found dudes that were, and maybe it was, and I would like to think that it was maybe just, that first company that I got to, but I was even talking to dudes in 25th Infantry Division and some other folks around, and they all had a really similar experience, that the Army had transitioned, that when you were back, they spent so much time deployed, 15-month deployments like that, that's insane.
Yeah.
Dudes get extended upon extensions. And so there's quite a bit of a mindset that when you came back to garrison, that was pretty much your downtime until you got getting in your timeline to get spun up to go out the door. And I was like, fuck that. We're going to the field, and I had at the time I picked up sergeant super quick. I was so lucky. My platoon sergeant was a salty senior NCO or staff NCO. He was a sergeant first class, and he'd been around a long time. And my first sergeant, of course, had been around for a while. And here was this guy, Specialist Stoker, who comes into their unit, and first PT formation, get your ass in line, I just lose my shit, and they're like, where'd this dude come from? Because it was like if you plucked a sergeant from the 90s and put him in the Army in 2010, I don't know how to act. I know one way to be an NCO, and that's fucking balls to the wall, get your heels on the line, and let's fucking do this right. And so they were really well receptive of my mentality, because a lot of the other NCOs, they were fucking weak. Constantly giving dudes time off, just go home early, go to this appointment, and of course you had to take care of folks, but even when it came to training, like I'm out there conducting hip pocket training, and doing taking my dudes out to the field on our own time, and actually doing inspections, and not just inventory. You can't just ask somebody, do you have something? Don't let me fucking see it. You gotta pay attention to detail with this stuff.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but like in the Marine Corps, the Marine Corps NCOs are the backbone of the Corps.
Backbone.
E-Force corporals and sergeants. I mean, they are the driving force.
Absolutely.
They run shit, make sure things work and go smoothly and go. And they are balls deep in everything. And my experiences, and this is where I need you to correct me if I'm wrong, but my experience in like cross training with the Army and just doing different things with the Army, I've noticed that like what a corporal or sergeant would do in the Marine Corps, you got to be like a freaking staff sergeant or sergeant first class in the Army for the equivalent of that job.
Yeah, it's mostly true. So, and some of that's tied to how each branch does and conducts promotions, which are similar, but there is a separation of one pay grade. In the Army, I would say it is the sergeant and the staff sergeant, as opposed to the Corps, it is the corporal and the sergeant. I would definitely say that's true. I remember, in the Corps, as a fast company, we come back from the field and this dude, freaking PFC vessels, he was a fat body, 2 red stripes across his freaking gray uniform. And we were conducting this junk on the bunk inspection, which is part of our recovery after coming back from the field. And he'd failed something, so I gave him 3 weeks, 2 paydays. You got 2 paydays to get right. Complete junk on the bunk and wall locker inspection. And I felt happy for these dudes. Had 2-man rooms. Like I grew up in a Quonset hut, and then I had a 4-man room. And they had all the luxury, which is sad now because they have single-man rooms. I don't know how it is in the Corps, but single-man rooms, I think, is one of the biggest mistakes that the military has ever made. Good intentions of trying to give everybody their own space, but you take away that camaraderie and the cohesion that the team has. Yeah. It's the second-order effect is crazy. But yeah, I go in and I completely lose my shit. I throw stuff out the window. We had an outside catwalk in a horseshoe-shaped formation at Fast Company. And I know I backtracked a little bit, but I'm literally throwing all this crap out into the middle of the area. And my battle buddy comes up and he knocks on the door and says, "Hey, Sergeant Stoker, it's Sergeant Johnson, fucking outstanding Marine, 0311. And he's like, "Hey, they're giving, I think it was Gunny Crutcher, goodbye barbecue down there." Oh, fuck. And I just threw all this dude's shit, everything he owns, out. And they're, First Sergeant Fowler, one eye looking this way, one eye looking this way. Gunny Crutcher, he was in Beirut. And as I understand the story correct, he was buried alive for at least a day before. So he was a little out there. But outstanding staff NCO, and at the time, like I couldn't get away with anything like that in the Army. Now at all, and I doubt you could in the Corps. But after I got called in to see the first sergeant, and he understood why, and it was because I found some shitty clumped drawers, not just shit stained drawers, but shitty clumped drawers, still in his stuff 3 weeks after the field. It was a write off. It was fine. But I get to this unit in the Army, and we're getting ready to go to the field, and we're going to conduct a validation exercise to make sure that we are validated and ready to deploy. And I take my fucking job serious. So I look at my dudes and I say, "Hey, we're going to get all of our PMCS done right, and we're going to get all of our inspections done right." And I give them I say, hey, can I get a packing list for my dudes from the company, from the platoon, from any? No, fucking packing list what? It's like, well, fucking, I'll print off my own packing list. It's like, here, this is what we're taking to the field. We're not going to take anything more, and I'm going to take anything less. And we get to the motor pool and say, you know what? We're going to conduct an inspection. So, what the fuck are you talking about, Sergeant? Inspection. So yeah, let's get everything laid out. And these dudes, these are commo guys, and so they're nerds. So, you know, they all had their cell phones. A couple of them had gaming stations and televisions they wanted to put inside their vehicles and shit. It's like, man, you take that shit back to your cars, back to your POVs, because we're gonna go play fucking Warfighter now. And so they were extremely irritated at Sergeant Stoker. I mean, they were freaking pissed. But we got out to the field, and it was a couple week exercise, and I drilled them hard on just doing crew drills, right? You just crew drill after crew drill after crew drill, and in between each one, conduct a little after action review, and we change one variable just to make it a little bit harder on us. So you change the conditions. You can't change the standards, but you can always change the conditions. And at the end of that exercise, when we were validated, our team smoked it. I mean, completely smoked the standards. And so after that, they were watching all these dudes on their phones and watching them playing their cupcake and lollipop and whatever it is that they play on their video games. And, you know, they're all mad up until that time. But as soon as they got that recognition from the battalion that they were the best team,
yeah,
all of a sudden, chest sticking out. You guys can't go through, you know, a couple weeks of sucking dirt and stuff, and it completely transitioned. And I knew that regardless of MOS, there is something in every single person who enlists that wants to be part of something bigger. They want to be a freaking warfighter. You know, I don't care if you're an admin clerk. You still want to be a warfighter. You want to feel like there's a part. If I turn on Black Hawk Down now, and I got every MOS racked in from 03 to, you know, 35s to everybody else. Not a single person is not going to have the hair stand up on the back of their neck watching these movies. Because there's something in there.
Right.
But I think whether it's, you know, leadership failures or, you know, whatever condition it is, whether it's coming from the top or coming from, you know, a field grade level, that gets lost. It gets lost. And I can't accept that. So I can't change, you know, anything else. I can change myself. I can do right by myself and for those who are in my charge. That's all I can do. I can't fix the other squad. I can't fix the other platoon. I can't fix the other company. But I can make sure that my team, my organization, freaking knows and remembers why they enlisted and knows what their job is, which is to locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver and repel enemies assault by fire and close combat. Come on! Right? How many fucking folks can say that?
Mission of the Marine Rifle Squad, in case you guys didn't know that. Alright, so what year are we at right now?
So that's 2010 to 2012. After that, I go become an instructor at the equivalent of Sergeant's Course. It was called, at the time it was called the Warrior Leaders Course. Now it's called the Basic Leaders Course.
And when he says equivalent of Sergeant's Course, he's talking about the Marine Corps Sergeant's Course.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And what an opportunity to go be an instructor, and especially at such early time in my time in the Army, because all that particular course does is teach doctrine. That's all it does. Like there is nothing else. And your training schedule is it's God. Whatever it says, that's what's going to happen. 2 years of it, day 0 coming again every month. Day 1, oh my God, it's fucking Groundhog Day. But it was just fantastic to get neck deep into doctrine, and I realized so quickly, because the course, it covers training, it covers some administrative stuff, and it covers some warfighting functions. And I realized, oh my God, black and white? Core doctrine, Army doctrine? It's the same.
Right.
It's the freaking same. It's the execution that's different. And so it kind of helped make me feel better that, my execution may be different than other folks, but by God, I'm doing shit by the doctrine, so fuck you. But it was really awesome to have all of these cycles of, junior NCOs come to this course and watch their, oh my God, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how counseling is supposed to happen, It's supposed to how it actually happened on the hood, just sign this and backdate it, 2 months ago, kind of crap. And to take them out to the field and to take them to go do all the things that make them feel connected to what they wanted to be a part of. But I quickly recognized that there were some failings, especially as it came to land navigation. We teach it in the first couple classes. I mean, the failure rate was astronomical. Finding a point on a self-correcting course of all things that's only 600 to 800 meters away, and these dudes couldn't do it. This is still in Hawaii, East Range. Yeah, it has some decent gulches, similar to what you experienced out here. But these guys were sucking at it, and I was like, man, land that. People say it's a perishable skill, but I disagree. If you get taught and you understand how to do it right, there might be some acronyms that you might forget. There might be a couple extra tricks that you might forget. But it's like riding a freaking bike. Like, I just feel that I feel like too many people don't actually get it. And too many people get land nav as moving from point to point, but they don't realize that that's just a subtask for patrolling, right? There's a reason why.
Yeah.
That people forget. And so I did several videos. I did some demonstration videos for land nav and for rect contact and some drill and ceremony stuff.
So this is how you get into YouTube.
It is. And I had no thoughts about YouTube at the time. I just wanted to give something to the academy and to these NCOs to be able to use it as a training reference so that they could see. I just felt, man, if you could just see somebody doing it,
yeah,
and with racking to near ambush or far ambush, if you could just, as opposed to a PowerPoint presentation, you could just watch this video and you can see what it's supposed to look like, that maybe you could get it.
So it's funny, if I can just interject real quick, it's funny you say that because, even though I'm mostly known as like the camouflage guy, like that's how I kind of got into YouTube also, is after, multiple combat deployments was like, I don't, I've got all these lessons learned,
right,
and all this training experience. Like, I don't want this to die once I leave the military. Like, I want something to be out there so I can pass that knowledge on, right? Because that's so much, like, stuff can get printed into pubs, and, it's a pub.
It's a pub.
You're not going to force dudes. Most infantry guys are visual and hands-on learners, right? So it's like, I thought YouTube in particular, just that media, that visual media, was a great opportunity for me to pass on, because I learned so much. Stuff like getting machine gun bandoliers, and how we would prep our ammo, and how we would like break open bandoliers of 5.56 and like using stripper clips and stuff like that. Like that was all stuff that was taught by like word of mouth. Like you weren't sat down and told like, hey, this is how you use the charger in your stripper clip to load your magazine. No, that's something you learned from your senior NCO in the fleet, right? So it's like, this is the kind of stuff I wanted to put in a video to pass on.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you just say that, because I feel like guys like you and I, that's how we get started.
Right.
Too. Right. You know, it's like, hey, we want to make these videos to teach junior Marines and soldiers.
Yeah.
And then it just, snowballs from there.
Yeah, no, it did. And and I ended up in the academy. They loved. I did all the videos myself, and they loved them, and they got added. At that schoolhouse as part of the resources for every student, regardless of what class they were in. And I took that land nav video and I uploaded it to YouTube. This would have been 2013, 2014, and as far as YouTube was concerned, I forgot about it.
Yeah. And is that video on your STOKERMATIC?
Yeah. Okay. And so I ended up PCSing from Hawaii, and they say, hey, it's time to re-enlist. I had to go in-def at the time, and at the time, thanks for your service, thanks for your re-enlistment. There's only one place in the Army, only one, for a now Staff Sergeant Stoker, 25 Quebec. There's only one place that has a position open for you. It's Kuwait! Come on, let's go! Come on. I get there, and it's an ACRC unit that I'm attached to, and I go in similar to you, right? Like,
can you explain that ACR?
Yeah. So it's an active and reserve component unit, and it's 90% reserve component, and maybe 10% of us active guys. And I get there, and I have all these preconceptions about these freaking reservists and their nasty dirtbags. And when it came to basic Army stuff, that was true. Like when it came to physical fitness standards and basic military discipline and stuff, it was true. But when it came to doing their jobs, these dudes were freaking on point.
Right.
They got it, and that completely changed my perception of the reserve. Because even in boot camp, you get to boot camp, and after even just a couple days, you look at this dude in a couple bunks down the rack, like, why are you going through this shit for part-time stuff? Come on, if you're gonna go through hell, what are you doing? Yeah, these dudes were really smart. And I spent a year there. We did a lot of projects throughout Kuwait. At that time, I didn't have the opportunity to go north. Almost ended up in Saudi on accident. But that was an awesome road trip. And I PCS from there. I go to Fort Hood. I'm part of the Signal Battalion. And I'm a staff sergeant. And I emailed the battalion sergeant major. We call him command sergeant major in the Army. I say, yeah, I'm PCSing to you. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to train lead soldiers. If there's any way to serve as a platoon sergeant, I'm all for it. In the Army, platoon sergeants are typically sergeants first class. They have such a critical shortage that I kind of had that job that, communications is established lower to higher. Always, right? And I think that's something that people fail to remember. They always want hired to tell you something. But I reached out, and I think between sending some of my record briefs and my NCOERs, or what we call fit reps in the Corps, and just saying I want to serve in this capacity if it works out, and it did work out. So I got a platoon. And now I'm a staff sergeant select or staff sergeant promotable, and my first sergeant leaves. He PCSs, and I'm the senior NCO in this company. So for 3 months, if you can imagine it, a freaking staff sergeant is the first sergeant. Like, where on earth does this happen? Now, I'm a lot older, than a typical staff sergeant, and I got some more salt on the collar, but still, I'm a freaking staff sergeant. I was like, well, Roger, here I am. I mean, whatever you need me to do, I'm going to do. And so for just under 100 days, I had that job, and it was wild. It was wild times. And I ended up switching companies. I went from Bravo to Alpha Company, and because they were getting ready to go to the National Training Center in California to support some dudes getting ready to go down range. I was like, hey, I'm all for it. So I took a platoon down there, and we knocked that shit out of the park. I come back, and again, my platoon sergeant, or my first sergeant's getting ready to leave, but they'd selected our company. I'm not gonna. I know why. It was because I was there. Because of my background. They wanted to my brigade commander wanted to introduce something that had not been done in our signal community, and so the Army has like signal brigades with 4 battalions, and each of these battalions are set up to kind of deploy individual nodes. So that individual team chief is not deploying out with their platoon sergeant and their platoon leader and their company. They're going off on their own to support these other guys. But they wanted to introduce a defensive live fire to this community. I was like, man, I got you. And that was pretty crazy experience. The very first time, I took these dudes out for a month. We lived in the field for a month, and it was crawl, it was walk, and it was run. It was no weapons included, and then it was weapons, no magazines, no ammo, no blanks, no nothing, and then it was weapons with blanks, and then it was weapons with live ammo. And for that culminating event, we had an awesome defensive perimeter set in. We had C-wire out to standard. It was all triple strand. It was all old school shit. And we had freaking smoke, and we had 50s, and we had 240s rocking. And they brought in every company commander, every first sergeant from the brigade. So it was Fort Hood, that was El Paso, and it was Fort Huachuca. Everybody came in for this big conference. I was like, oh my God, I got this audience watching us. And we go out, and these dudes are shooting, and they're standing on. I'm standing up and moving, and my team leaders are they're getting their lace reports done. Live ammo. On the Poe side of the house, like these dudes were losing their minds. The dudes were getting up and running up and down the line to get their lace reports, and then to send it back up on lower TI to a CP that we had set up. Like, oh my God, the risk aversion is so high that they could not believe that this happened. But what they didn't see was the weeks of blood and sweat that it took in all those rehearsals to get these dudes right so that they could do it. And I thought it was great because it showed that it could be done. And so that continued to expand. I went up to the brigade. I'm now a sergeant first class. And the brigade commander said, hey, Sergeant Stoker, I want you to write this in some kind of a manual, if you will. And so I did. So I wrote this manual that it was called this. At first, it was called it was a mission training plan for signal platoons, and the actual signal corps regiment in Fort Gordon took a big chunk of that and put it in their stuff. So that was pretty awesome. And so it became kind of the industry standard as far as how teams train and certify. They don't still do the defensive live fire, which is a shame, but that was pretty awesome because that impacted, or at least our brigade, pretty extensively. I still talk to dudes who went through that, whether it was in my company or others, and I heard that they were in the brigade at the same time. It's like, hey, did you go out and do this live fire? It's like, yeah, man, it was the best thing in the world because they got to feel like warfighters. They'll never have to do that.
Yeah.
Like if a signaler has to, put his upper TI equipment and leave that and go man a defensive position, we're in a world of shit. But it's still stuff that they need to know.
Yeah.
And so I leave Fort Hood and I PCS to Fort Lewis. I'm a Sergeant First Class. This would have been 2018. I emailed the Sergeant Major. I was like, Sergeant Major, same thing. Yeah, I want to be platoon sergeant. Before now, it's like, I'd love the opportunity to be a first sergeant. If that opportunity ever presents itself, in whatever capacity I can train and lead soldiers is what I want. So I started off as a platoon sergeant, and I'm in Charlie Company. Bravo Company's first sergeant PCSs. And there is like, where are all the senior NCOs? And nobody's saying how I want to serve, but I know they tell us that we're overstaffed on senior NCOs. Like, hey, Fort Lewis, you have, you're at 110% on senior NCOs, but there's nobody to be the first sergeant. Like, where are all these guys at? They're all retiring and everything else. I don't know. Passing out basketballs in them. So my sergeant major says, Sergeant Stoker, the opportunity is yours if you want. I'm like, here I am. Send me. So I spent a year. I did spend a year as a first sergeant at Fort Hood before I PCS'd. I was Sergeant First Class, not a diamond wearer at all. But that just got me hooked. I think that's like the second best position, aside from being that squad leader, being that first shot. Oh my God, look. So I get in and I have Bravo Company, and I get about a month and a half later, I get a new company commander, Captain Lamoureux, and he's a bro. Spent the vast majority of his time prior to that. He's, would say bro, he spent time in the Ranger community.
Yeah.
And he got it. He and I, we talked the same language, and we wanted the same things, which was to build a brand and to get buy-in from those who were in our charge to understand that they were the shit. They were the best. And so we had to give them task and purpose, and we had to challenge them in ways that they hadn't been challenged before. Shortly thereafter, I got selected for Master Sergeant and automatically pinned First Sergeant. Still 2019, and had a fantastic time with that company commander. That company commander changed a couple times. I was the first sergeant of that company for probably 3 years. And then in the Army now, they tell you, they kind of put you in a pool based off of how long you've been somewhere. After 3 years, they're going to tell you to PCS now.
Right.
There's really not a way to hide anymore. It's like in the Corps, I know dudes who spent, 18 to 20 years on the East Coast, or 17 to 20 years on the West Coast. And in the Army, you had similar dudes doing that, but now you really, it's extremely difficult to do that. Holy shit! I forgot I deployed. That was the whole reason I went to Alpha Company. So I deployed to Iraq out of Fort Hood. I was up at Brigade writing that manual, and the other battalion had seen that action, and that battalion commander said, "Hey," and I'm in an E9 position, And this battalion commander said, "Hey, Sergeant Stoker, I need / really freaking want. So I kind of need you to deploy with one of my companies as a platoon sergeant, E7 position, right?" I'm like,
And were you a first sergeant at this point?
no.
So you were still sergeant first class?
Yeah, still serving first class. But at the brigade, I was serving. I was in the E9 position, and I was like, "Fucking A, let's go!" Right? Well, you want me to take dudes down range?
Yeah.
I was like, I'll go as fucking D4. I don't care. Let's go. So we were forward deployed in Iraq. My primary area was at Al Taqaddum, which they selected that specifically for me because Al Taqaddum was run by the Corps, by the task force, and being prior service, I knew I could talk and make things happen there. But I had dudes in Erbil, I had dudes all over Baghdad and Al-Assad. And so as a platoon sergeant, it was great because I really had freedom of maneuver to go around and see all my guys. And at that time, 2016 maybe, it was a huge push to go towards Syria and to get everything pushed out of Iraq going towards Syria. And so we get I had a team that was going out, and I was like, maybe not. I kind of stepped down to move out with them because they really didn't need me, as a platoon sergeant. But I was like, you know what, I'll go out with this team. And we made this push, roll out to Al-Assad, and from Al-Assad we pushed out west, wide open freaking desert, out in the middle of fucking nowhere, setting up this fire base. And it was crazy because they said, hey, the engineers came out and they cleared this side of the road. Don't step on that side of the road.
Now, was this the fight against ISIS?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, we're out. There's no C-wire, right? There's no HESCO barriers. There's no, it's just, how's it going? We got folding chairs, and we cut holes in the folding chairs to shit in, or to shit through.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have fucking outhouses, we didn't porta johns out there. And living under nothing but camo netting, and just fucking hearing the American freedom ringing with the indirect fire shooting off right next to us. Pushing these dudes out, and it was, set up a fire base, move down the road, set up a fire base, move down the road, and just this huge push, get these dudes out. Well, this truck I ended up in was a Marine Corps 7-ton, right? We have 5 tons, you get 7 tons,
Yeah.
is that right? When I ended up riding it in the bitch seat, and the fucking turret is missing. It's just this hole.
Yeah.
It's just wide open sky. And it's like August in Iraq. And you're full kit. And the sun is just beaming in on you. And it's a freaking, I'm getting smoked, man. I probably lost 20 pounds riding like that. Oh my God, it was horrible. But that was a different experience, from, of course, my deployment in the Corps was, it's non-combat, and nobody got cars because, it was Europe in the 90s, and this was a different experience, but it was fucking great to take these troopers out and to work with all these other branches, to go out and push with this effort and to be a part of that.
So what? I would assume you didn't get an Iraq campaign medal. You probably got something else. Well, was there a campaign medal for that Syrian?
No. So it was inherent resolve. Fucking whatever.
Was there a campaign medal for that, or was it Armed Forces Expeditionary?
No, it was a campaign medal.
It was a campaign medal.
I think so. I have to look at it. I don't. I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah.
You know
I figured there was something for it.
Yeah.
I can't, for the life of me, I haven't seen it enough because there's so few Marine units that were deployed to that.
Right.
I mean, they were there obviously, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen it very often, so I can't picture it in my head.
Yeah, as a junior, Marine, it was crazy because in the Corps, when I got out after 8 years, I had a good conduct medal. After 8 years. What?
Somebody got it in.
I had one NAM, and I had sea service deployment and overseas, and that was it. So my rack was 4, after 8 years, and I mean whatever. Yeah, that was huge at the time.
Right. Well, so just you. So like it's like that now.
Awesome. Yes.
Like there's sergeants and staff sergeants in the Marine Corps right now that have like 2-3 ribbons.
That's fucking great.
Or medals. I mean, that's how it used to be before the G1.
Yeah. The Army, completely different. Like by the time a dude has 4 years, could potentially have a solid 2, maybe even going into the 3rd.
Yeah.
And some of that is tied to how the Army promotes and provides promotion points, because awards gives them promotion points, and so people want to give fucking awards. But there was a point in time, of course, I think in everybody's career, where you want the big, salad, dressing up on your, having a good rack, but I don't fucking care. The last thing I want is another freaking medal to have to go redo my uniform.
Yes. So that's something. It's funny you brought it up. That's something that's like inside, like only a senior like staff that's would understand that, right? Because most people are like, oh, wouldn't you want? No, when you get to that point where you have rows and rows of like ribbons and or you're mounting medals, like that shit is expensive.
It's expensive as fuck.
It's like, no, don't give me another award. I don't want to.
I'm not redoing
spend the money to get it redone. Like even so, like my current medals, like I got another selected Marine Corps Reserve. So all it is a star, right? Well, all the stars are glued on
absolutely
my selected Marine Corps Reserve, medal. And I'm like, God damn it! I have to like redo
the whole
all
thing.
this shit just to add a little tiny bronze star to this thing.
I'm not even doing it.
I did it this last ball, Marine Corps ball.
Right.
So, anyways, let's because we kind of like
no, my bad.
came back around, but let's get back up here. So you were a first sergeant.
Yeah.
First sergeant with the Army unit. Let's pick it up with that.
Yeah. So. Getting ready to PCS because my time came on, and I was like, you know what, Fort Lewis was an option. I'm at Fort Lewis, but Fort Lewis is also an option. So I went ahead and I said, my kids, I could have done a high school stabilization to stay there, but I really wanted to stay in the area because my youngest, she's in high school. If I can get her stabilized and stay there for graduation. So I PCS'd right down the road to First Corps, which is where I'm at now. And I started off in the G6 for about 3 months, but the intent was, let's bring you in and then we're going to throw you down into the company first sergeant, which is crazy because my line company experience, I had 140 guys. Which is a wild enough experience as it is. My current company has about 345.
Yeah.
And so it's comprised of the G1, the G2, the G4, the G6, the EO, the Sharp guys, some of the JAG guys, and some of the Inspector Generals. So it is a crazy experience. I have 7 full-bird colonels in my company.
Jeez.
Like 14 sergeants majors in my company. like even a junior, staff NCO is low man on the totem pole. There's not a lot of junior warfighters, so it's pretty interesting experience.
Is that your current?
That is my current assignment right now. Yeah, I've been doing that for about 8 months now. So it gives me about just over 56 months as a first sergeant total time.
Nice. So what are you at total, like minus the broken time?
Yeah, so minus broken time, I have right at 21 years of total time. Yeah.
So what do you see as your foreseeable future? Are you looking to retire? Or
yeah, I think by this time next year I'll be wearing, I'll be part of First Civ Div.
First Civ Div. Yeah.
No idea what I'm going to do when I get out yet.
Well.
But I got, a couple years ago, I realized that video I uploaded many moons ago was well received.
Yeah.
And about 3 years ago, I was like, hey, crap. This thing had like 200,000 views. I was like, well, let me try this.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll give it a year and see if I still enjoy it and things are working out right. And so 3 years later, I'm having fun, and I think the community is pretty good. Branched off and started another channel, which focuses really only on Army development, because I did a few on my STOKERMATIC Army promotion board, similar to a competition board in the Corps, but it's for promotion, and was really well received. A couple of those have over 100,000 views, which is crazy because that's like every person in the Army who's gone to the board.
Yeah.
When I do the math, I was like, man, this fieldcraft stuff and this military stuff, it's two different.
It's two different audiences.
Yeah, two different. I have to separate it, so I went ahead and started the separate channel. And I'm enjoying it.
So what is that separate channel? So
it's Bill Stoker.
Bill Stoker. Original.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll change it to like Diamond Cut or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I spend a lot of my time in the mornings and going out to the field, on the weekends, and even during a chow break, just go out to the field and maybe change part of my uniform and keep my cami bottoms on and put the, whatever. Just gotta enjoy it. Being able to teach and try to put handles on things that people are out there trying to learn. So
yeah,
I dig it.
Well, I know. I mean, obviously, proof is just the fact that you and I are sitting right here on this couch. That YouTube, for those of you that are looking to start YouTube channels, like YouTube opens doors.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It opens fucking doors, and like I'm sitting here, he's sitting here. We're in Randall with Grunt Proof's cabin up in the mountains of California,
right?
Doing survival challenges and stuff. I mean, it just opens unbelievable doors that you would have foreseen. Yeah. Had you never started that YouTube channel. So, anyways, our timing is impeccable. Randall just showed up with chow, and I guess
it's chow time.
I guess this is a good time to finish up. But Bill Stoker with STOKERMATIC and Bill Stoker channel. Be sure to check him out. And Bill, thanks for coming on tonight, man.
Appreciate it.
This has been great.
Awesome.
We're gonna eat some chow. So keep fighting the good fight, guys, and Semper Fidelis.
Stay stoked.